David Sable coming to you for Creativity from the Other Side, brought to you by New York Festivals. And it's a place where we talk to the greatest creative minds in our industry and elsewhere to learn about what gets them out of bed in the morning, what catalyzes their creativity, what makes them think the way they do. And we are, as we very often are, in Silverstein Studios in Lower Manhattan. This is the World Trade Center. It is the epicenter of creative New York, of the Renaissance of New York. People are out and about in the streets again. People are back in offices. And yes, let's not get into that discussion of hybrid or not hybrid. They're back in the offices, working together, being creative, thinking together, and doing great stuff together. And I'm so happy to be here today with a new FOD. It's a friend of David, and you'll see you actually get rewarded for being an FOD. Although we have met before, today makes you an official FOD.
I love it.
So with Brian Rappaport, who is the founder, the sole founder, and the CEO of Quan Media, a out-of-home concierge.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about what that means, why out-of-home is so important, why the concierge service that you offer is so interesting. But first and most importantly, how's Jack?
Jack is good. He is 1 month as of yesterday, so it's very exciting. First time dad, first boy in the family for a while since me and my brothers, so my mom's happy after having two nieces. And it's just surreal still, but it's amazing. Really excited.
Is Jack keeping you up at night?
We have a little bit of help for the first month plus, so he's sleeping well, but it's been a nice and easy adjustment. But he can keep me up at night. I won't get upset.
So all I can tell you is that now as a grandfather, they should keep you up for the next however many years, 120.
Works for me. I agree.
There's nothing as beautiful as having your kids call you in the middle of the night because they need you, they want to talk to you.
Yep.
And for the most positive reasons.
I couldn't agree more.
And so I wish you well.
Thank you.
And I want to meet Jack. I look forward
definitely,
to it.
100%.
All right, next time we do it. So tell us, what is an out-of-home concierge?
An out-of-home concierge is the opposite of an agency. And as somebody that spent many years in the holdco world, I was tired of that model. And I wanted to focus more on client service and focus more on doing right by brands and not as much on budget and how much a client is spending or how much out-of-home they're buying, rather than helping accomplish what they're looking to accomplish as a brand, see growth, see lift, see success through the channel, and kind of take out-of-home and elevate it from what was looked at as just a vanity play to more than that, to a performance channel, to, yes, a strong awareness channel. And a concierge out-of-home is fast, furious, a very niche media channel. You have decisions being made super quickly. You have brands deciding to do something on a Saturday at 5 o'clock. And when you work with a large agency, and this is no knock on them, they shut down at 5 o'clock on Friday. They're off on holidays. That's it.
If they're even open on Friday.
If they're even open on
These
Fridays.
days, yeah.
I had a brand call me the other night at 9:45 that they wanted to make something happen literally this weekend. This is on Wednesday night. I picked up my phone, it's done. It's booked, it's taken care of. It's happening. And that's not just me, but it's my team and it's our mentality. And it's not rocket science, but that along with not stopping a relationship with a brand the second they sign an authorization and a campaign's booked, it just goes such a long way. And that's kind of the secret sauce.
So let's back up. So I love this. So what makes a concierge good? Like, why do you go to a concierge in a hotel when you can pick up a phone? Because you're talking to somebody.
Well, I also like when you kind of feel important, when you feel special. And I use the Delta Lounge as an example of that. Like, I love going into an airport. I'm there 2 hours early. I have a flight. I want to relax. I want to go on my laptop. I want to eat something, but I don't want to deal with like the hustle and bustle of an airport. I could walk into the Delta Lounge and I feel somewhat, special that I can do that. And a lot of people do that now, but like having my own place to sit, knowing that, I have this nice, comfortable environment and I don't really have to worry about anything until my flight is boarding. I love that. And with us and with Quan, it's kind of like that with the brands that we work with. Like whether we're getting an incredible last minute deal on a piece of inventory that's 80% off, or whether we're bringing a first to market opportunity to a brand because we know it's a perfect fit for them and then they take advantage of it. Or, we're just taking
I want to talk about service.
Yeah.
So
there is nobody faster than us in the out-of-home world.
Forget that. I got that. We'll put this aside. Quan is a great company. Yes. I agree. I'm more interested just in general in this notion. So the holding companies, because of profit pressure and because of their public status, right? This whole notion of over-servicing a client, usually ends up being underservicing clients.
Correct.
And by the way, to be fair, clients don't want to pay for service. And so when you start looking at FTEs and full-time equivalents and how many people you have on, when I came up in the business, we had way more people working on the business, and it wasn't wasted people.
Right.
For the most part. Sometimes maybe it was. But the truth is, there were people who were servicing a client, solving their problems. So today, part of the argument would be, well, we have so much technology and it replaces everybody. Now, the truth is, you use a lot of technology. We don't have to discuss it. Obviously, we all do. Yeah. We live in a digital world. Everything is digital. Let's get over it. If I buy the New York Times in print on a Sunday morning, it comes from a digital source. If I buy coffee from the guy in the push cart, he uses a Square. Yeah. Everything is digital. The infrastructure, your infrastructure is as digital as anybody's. But service is definitely a competitive edge.
Yes, the human touch, being made to feel like somebody actually cares about you and your brand, it's weird, but it is so rare.
It's not weird, that's human.
In what we do, it is so rare. It is, and I know it's rare because I've had dozens and dozens of clients tell me that it's rare, and that they've come to us from word of mouth because of our service.
So let's break the wall for a second. Yeah. Just like everybody pay attention to this. Client service. We get the technology. Hello, we live in a world of technology. We all use all the technology, whether it's Slack, it doesn't make a difference. Whatever we use is great. The human touch. And if you're not there, go back and think about how you bring that to your client relationship. Or by the way, if you're an agency, if you're a client, to your agency relationship, because I think it's a two-way street. So how do we bring the human touch back? Understanding that technology drives everything that we do. So I just want to make that point because I think it's critical.
Totally.
And I think that that's really, the essence of a concierge is that I'm talking to Pierre behind the desk at some fabulous hotel who takes care of my business and not to some, recording or chatbot or whatever. All right, let's talk about out of home because that's what you do.
Right.
Since I've started in the business, out of home has been like this, right? Now, I think there's a lot of problems out of home around creativity and such, and you and I are both going to Nashville. So you want to talk about that for a minute? Tell us about Nashville, and then, because I'm going to talk about these issues in Nashville. So, which I think is really important.
Yeah. I'm very excited. So it's OAAA's annual Out of Home conference.
Tell them what OAAA is.
Out of Home Advertising Association of America. And I'm on the board for the planning committee for this conference. And it's super important because it's really the one time a year you really have the whole industry in one singular place. And what really excites me about this year, more than any year, this will be my 5th, 6th, whatever it is that we're bringing about 7 brands down there to speak on different panels, because the biggest struggle for me and for the industry as a whole at these conferences in the past has been a lack of actual brands that believe in out of home as a channel. You go down there and you hear the Outfronts and the Clear Channels and the Lamaras speak, but we hear them speak all the time. And then you hear the agency people speak, and we hear them speak all the time. But the people that are attending this conference, they want to hear from brands that have seen success from the channel. So while, yes, it's a nice little puff at the chest moment for me that these are all Quan brands, to be really honest, it's more of a favor for the industry because you're going to have the Farmer's Dog, Zell, Casper, Roman, GoPuff, all on different panels speaking to how out of home has worked.
Which, by the way, are what kind of companies for the most part?
Heavy D2C. Heavy D2C.
More than that?
Emerging, kind of like groundbreaking brands, I would say.
But the kinds of companies that if we were sitting around a conference room in a holdco, they'd be going, oh, these are the digital leaders.
Yes, exactly. Digital age. And also they would be brands, to be fair, that holdcos wouldn't put their effort into helping grow because they're not Anheuser-Busch's or Pepsi's or Cokes. But it's exciting.
Despite the fact that very often the valuations are way higher.
Exactly. And then they end up getting to that size and becoming, super huge. Farmer's Dog just stole the Super Bowl with their commercial. It was all over the place. They won it. So it's exciting for me to be in Nashville. And sure, I'll do a little bit of speaking, but more so, I feel like I'm kind of like doing a service for the out-of-home industry because I'm bringing 7 brands that may, for 1 millisecond, mention Quan, but at the most part, they're going to be talking about why they believe in the channel, why it's worked for them as a brand, and what they've gotten out of it. And I think that's exciting. It's going to motivate the industry. You're going to have a lot of people there that are.
Well, I look forward to seeing you there.
Same.
And speaking with you. So let's just talk about out-of-home again. Let's just step it back a bit. So out-of-home, kind of up and down. It's been called dead 1,000 times during my career. I was always a huge out-of-home supporter. I learned how to use it creatively, from a creative point of view many years ago. I've always loved doing out of home. But tell us about the business in general. So the business is up.
It's up. It is definitely up. I think it grew about 12% year over year from 21 to 22. It was sort of earmarked at like a 10% growth this year, but with the economy dropped to like 7-ish, which is obviously still great. You take into account the pandemic, which was, a dead year for out of home. And prior to that, like it was really on the upswing. The very beginning of 2020 was like incredible, the way that the year started for the industry. And if I step, unobjectively, I think the channel is going to remain one of the hottest media channels out there for years to come. The growth is there. You see a lot more brands like believing in it and using it as a primary growth channel, as opposed to like, okay, let's do connected TV and direct mail, and then we'll bring out of home into the media mix. And I just truly think between the expansion of the channel and the tactics and formats to the digitization to obviously the growth and measurement, like there's so many reasons why it's doing so well and growing. But it's exciting.
Digital boards,
the ability to be super creative and do so many fun things. And obviously now that we're kind of back to pre-pandemic times, that's it. Like brands want it's the utmost vanity play. It's the utmost brand legitimacy tactic. But aside from that, like it's truly leading to growth for brands. So
all right, we're going to talk about each piece of it in a second. Let's just talk about a little bit of the creative. So Tubi.
Yeah. Tubi.
Now, so what I found interesting about the Tubi thing is that we all watched the Tubi commercial.
Oh my God.
On the Super Bowl. Like everybody watched it. Very controversial. Some people hated it. Not many loved it. Doesn't make a difference. It made an impact.
Yeah.
But they also had an incredibly impressive out of home. Who knew?
I have to give credit to probably one of my favorite creative shops out there, Mischief at No Fixed Address, because to me,
we love Mischief.
I love them. I think that they are literally the best creative shop, maybe independent media shop out there right now. And I'm fortunate enough to have had an opportunity to kind of...
We don't endorse anybody, by the way.
This is not planned.
The festivals and CFOS, we love you all.
Yes. I'm saying this as a Brian
Or
Rappaport
most of
thing.
you.
But yeah, I mean, we've done some work with them as like a strategic partner, two great indie shops working together. And aside from the commercial that made everybody think that they were changing the channel during the Super Bowl, Tubi's main, spot was around going down the rabbit hole of different, channels and content and shows that are on the Tubi platform. And as such, Tubi came to us with this incredible 3D, creative execution of these enormous rabbits popping out of some of the most iconic large format digital boards in New York and LA. And it was just unbelievable. I've never done a 3D activation in out of home yet. It was on my bucket list. Fortunately, I can cross it off. But to see the creative that they spent months developing, the idea that they spent months developing, and then like kind of utilizing a big tentpole event like the Super Bowl, complemented with some really strategic out of home, it was incredible. And we had these giant rabbits by Penn Station in Times Square in downtown LA. It was amazing, and I loved it.
I thought it was crazy.
Yeah.
And on the other end of the spectrum, you had Pattern Blow Dryer.
Oh yeah.
Like a little company creating a really interesting product that's kind of niche, but putting all their launch money into out of home.
I mean, for me, celebrity-backed and endorsed and founded brands is a really fun little category in itself. And
so tell everybody what the product is and what they do.
It's a blow dryer that Tracee Ellis Ross has, obviously a female-focused blow dryer that Tracee Ellis Ross from Blackish has developed. Pattern Beauty is her brand. It's under the growth hub known as Beach House Group, which is kind of like a celebrity brand incubator out in LA. So they've also done Baze, founded by Shay Mitchell, and Moon Oral, that is founded by Kendall Jenner as well as Odell Beckham Jr. And in the middle is Pattern. So we've worked with all three brands, by the way, so I kind of have that on lock. But for me, what really made Pattern so incredible was that it was a very smart and strategic campaign that was throughout LA. It combined large format moments on Sunset with street level dedicated barricades. And the best part of the entire thing was I was perusing Instagram on a Saturday and obviously now follow Tracee Ellis Ross. And without provocation, without her being, prompted, she filmed herself pulling up to her billboard on Sunset screaming and could not believe that. And then it was spliced with her, walking alongside her dedicated barricades on the streets of Beverly Hills and just absolutely like sheer freaking out. This is like a movie star, a TV star, obviously the daughter of Diana Ross. Like she's been in the spotlight for so many years, but to see the actual legitimate joy from seeing your brand on pieces of out of home across Los Angeles, like to me, that's probably my favorite campaign that we've run this year, and we've done a lot.
So let's just drill down a little bit.
Yeah.
Those are both out of home, like that
Yes.
big billboard.
Exactly.
And the street barriers.
And the street
I don't think
barricades.
people think of that.
No, and that's the issue. That's when brands, the stereotype of out of home is that it's subway and billboard. That's it. And when I sit
And occasionally street corner.
and occasionally like bus shelters or newsstands. But when I sit with a brand and I explain that you can advertise on a floating digital boat in Miami, or do a hand-painted mural in the heart of Williamsburg, Brooklyn, or do a 3D projection, in downtown Los Angeles opposite Crypto Arena, they're like, wow, I had no idea. And then the conversation starts, and then the creativity starts flowing. And then before you know it, you really have a brand willing to take creative risks and do some really fun things. And fortunately, we've gotten to be on the on the end of some amazing creative activations that have been either thought of collaboratively with us and brands, or that brands have brought to us that we work with.
So now let's talk about the different ways that we can actually make business happen with out of home. So I think in the industry, and again, I don't want to push this on the whole coast, but I think in the bigger companies, it's been, all right, really not important to us, but if we can win an award with one big billboard someplace, and we've all seen those, right?
Yes.
And we'll have cows walking across it, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. I've seen everything. Two guys playing soccer or football for the Europeans on that. We get that, right? What about acquisition?
Yeah, I mean, out of home is a legitimate, so I use, without giving away too much, we're actually nominated for an Obie in Nashville for this specific client, but we work with Casper, the mattress company, and every quarter...
Right, and Casper is direct.
They're direct. They were kind of like the OG brand of the D2C out of home loving movement. Like they were the first ones in the subway from the D2C world, and they've obviously elevated and expanded. And every quarter last year, we were running a retail and a wholesale campaign that we actually measured. We're building strategic out-of-home campaigns to drive store traffic as well as drive online visitation and site awareness. And we have ways, which is a much longer conversation to kind of understand that. But Casper specifically saw brand growth and store traffic increase and purchase intent increase as a direct correlation between the out-of-home that they were running and obviously what they were looking to accomplish. And that is why we nominated that specific brand and that specific year-long campaign for an Obie, because to be able to show the world of out-of-home and other brands that vanity is great, awareness is great, but out-of-home can be an acquisition channel. Ultimately, that's what we want to do.
Great. So I got acquisition, direction, which we know, right? So I can direct you to a store or to a...
I worked on Sonic drive-in for 4 years during my Publicis days, and everything was directional. Obviously, QSR, that's what they go to, but even D2C brands that do pop-up shops in Soho, whether they want to do wild postings or those digital link kiosks, 2 blocks up, 43 Prince Street, here's our store. It's done to this day. And it's smart. You're walking around, you don't realize that there's a store down the street that you may want to buy something from. So.
And branding.
I mean, just to be able to get the brand out there, to have a real strong logo or call to action. If you, continuously see a logo over and over and over again in minimal text, you're going to want to know what that brand is, and you're going to want to do some deep digging and figure it out.
So we all know about big billboards.
Yeah.
We all know about digital billboards. We know about the corner. Those are sort of obvious. Wildlings are back.
Oh yeah.
I mean, as I said, we're at Silverstein Studios. We're in Lower Manhattan. There are Wildlings all over the streets here every day. Literally every day, I'm taking pictures of some of the best creative that I've seen, and I send it to my grandchildren because they love this stuff.
Yep.
And I find it so inspiring.
But
explain what a Wildling is and how I would do one and how I would think of it.
Wildlings or wild postings, are an incredible media format. It has blown up. Brands love it. Every brand from Chanel to the newest D2C brand. And basically it's when you utilize different space around certain cities. It's guerrilla tactics. So, just not permitted, I would say. But essentially it's a great frequency tactic and a great way to build up brand awareness. Could be a good call to action vehicle. Could be a great opportunity to utilize a QR code because of the street level, prominence that it offers. But it's really a great frequency and awareness driver in cities and specific neighborhoods. Obviously, if you're in New York and you walk through Williamsburg, you'll walk by a construction site and you'll see a ton of them in a row. And if you are a smart, creative mind, credit to the brand Liquid Death, who did a great job with theirs.
Oh my God, theirs is great.
Theirs is great. It is a great way to generate strong awareness about your brand and utilize a call to action without spending, the $75,000 a month that you would spend in Soho buying one board.
And so,
yeah.
what am I missing? So we talked about all these different guys. Give me what's the craziest that you ever put together?
I mean, experiential out of home, I think, is often not looked at by brands either. And by that, it's like really thinking outside the box. And we worked in tandem with Zambezi, another independent shop that we love, and Traeger Grills last year or 2 years ago to put up a billboard in the middle of Salt Lake City where Traeger's headquarters, is located. And over the course of a week, we put a real live farm below the billboard, like actual cows, pigs, all living, breathing, taken care of by real farmers. And the billboard just had an empty grill. And over the course of 1 week, we removed an animal. So we would remove the cow on a Monday. And later that day on Monday, a giant steak would go up on the grill. So we'd be removing thankfully PETA never found out. But we removed each animal safely. No one was harmed, I should say. And as an animal lover, that was very important. And by the end of the week, we had a full grill full of, bacon, steak, corn, all of this stuff, and a completely empty farm below it. And it was thought about and, conceptualized for about 8 to 12 weeks. We made it happen. The clients were thrilled. It got great press. It won awards. And for me, I've done a lot in my holding company days. That was probably the wildest. That was the craziest.
What if I came to you and said I'm in a particular block.
Yeah.
And it was really important to me and there was nothing there. There was nothing to buy.
Yeah.
What would you do?
I mean, odds are if you're talking about New York City, there'll be something, whether it's a digital bus shelter, a city bike station. But if there's nothing at all, you can be super creative. There are these digital trucks that are 3-sided, full motion, and brands own 100% share of voice. And you can completely customize the route and have truck literally drive up and down a block running different creatives. So, you're obviously going to stand out that way. You can brand in a coach bus. There's no one on the coach bus. It's used almost like a mobile billboard, but you can do the same thing with that.
What about lighting up a building or painting a building or projecting?
Projections are also somewhat of a guerrilla tactic, but it's become so incredibly popular and amazing for brands. And the biggest brands in the world use them, and also cool D2C brands use them. And I mean, in Miami, there's no real true large format out of home in South Beach. So during events like Art Basel, during events like South Beach Food and Wine Festival, like brands want to have a presence there. And a great way to do that is to do guerrilla projections, on the sides of walls down by Lincoln Road or, wherever the events are taking place in South Beach. And, I've been doing this for a long time, never an issue legally, never an issue with like police. Sometimes you're asked to move, but when you work with a great projection partner, they have multiple locations. So they're in the back of their mind, they know if they're asked to move, they'll just go to another location. But yeah, I mean, there's always a way to penetrate a block or an area of a city.
Everybody paying attention, there's always a way.
You just need the right partner.
Great, I love it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about measurement.
Yeah.
So we live in a world where measurement is really critical.
Yes.
I think, by the way, we've always lived in that world. Since the day I came into the business back in 1976 in the dark ages, measurement was something that was drilled into our head. And what's happened over the years is that measurement has gotten better and better and better. It's also gotten worse and worse and worse from a particular point of view because we measure way too much.
Yeah.
A lot of what we measure is absolutely irrelevant. Doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But measurement is still important, still critical. And again, I think the digital world allows us, particularly around things like video and with the web, et cetera, streaming, to measure in ways that we were never able to measure. And actually important, real ways.
Yeah.
What about outdoor? I'm just kind of walking down the street. How do you...
Look, outdoor measurements definitely
We always counted the number of people who walk by.
So we have that. That's Geopath. They're the Universal Auditing Bureau for out of home. I would say 75% of out of home, inventory is audited by Geopath. It's done through anonymous mobile location data, and you could break down.
Which already is different than in my day. You had somebody sitting there with a clicker.
Oh, that's DEC. 50,000 cars see this board, 75,000 cars. And we've fortunately evolved from that. But aside from Geopath, it's nice to assign, a specific number of impressions to a piece of out-of-home inventory. But sometimes, what if you're running on 50 bus shelters, 5 billboards, and 30 link screens in New York? You want to know how each one influenced a consumer to go to a specific website and purchase something. And there are ways. It is done through anonymous mobile location data. Obviously, there's a little bit of a drop off. You have to understand as a brand, this is not being looked at the same way as, you'd be measuring connected TV or digital. And there are ways like utilizing anonymous mobile location data, like doing sales lift analysis by taking historical sales, information and then getting sales information during when out of home is running and post campaign and building kind of a historical pattern and understanding how adding out of home into your media mix led to whatever your KPIs are. So we've been playing with a lot of different methods in the out-of-home measurement space, but the short answer is that there are ways to understand effectiveness of out-of-home. You just need to kind of level set with the brands you're working with, and brands need to understand that like they should be doing something internally as well to kind of complement whatever we're doing on the buy side, and from that derive did out-of-home perform.
But it can be measured in interesting ways, and you can add it into your, which is critical, right? It's critical for people to understand
it's great to have that. Look, if you're running a $1.5 million out-of-home campaign, you could afford the $15,000 that it costs to run a really in-depth brand lift study, which is going to be worth it. You could, that you could customize the questions, understand competitors, find true lift, intent, awareness, and like, I don't recommend that to a client that's spending like $100K, because $15K on that top of that's going to be a lot, and those are hard costs because it is what it is. But if you're spending a lot and you're already making that true investment in out-of-home, and you really want an in-depth understanding of, did out-of-home perform well for me and my brand, and did it, raise awareness all the way around, and other things, like do a brand lift study.
And you can also target.
And you can target, exactly.
So tell us a little bit about targeting.
Yeah, you could do like mobile retargeting, where essentially you could justify or actually come up with a radius around a specific billboard. Let's say there's a billboard in Soho, and you decide within a 3-block radius you want to serve a mobile ad to anyone that walks by that billboard that's 18 to 24, and has a household income of like 100K plus. And like you can do, it's like additional impressions, additional clicks. You find out what, apps are going to be retargeted on your mobile phone. You work with like a nice partner, whether it's like a Blue Byte, whether it's a Quorum. Those are the two of the main ones in the out-of-home space. And it's a nice layer on top of an out-of-home campaign to kind of amplify it a bit.
And creatively, what's the one thing that you think everybody should keep in mind? The one thing that I tell people is make sure people can read it.
Yes.
Like remember when you're driving down the road, like it goes this way if you're on this side, and it goes that way if you're on the other side. Like you can't have you can't have mouse type. But what do you tell people?
Less is more. You want less text, strong logo. One of my favorite things that I've seen in years in the subway system on brand trains, when you own the whole side of the subway car, the brand Makespace several years ago, it was literally all their ads were just like literally like white paper, and in the very smallest font in like green, it had the Makespace logo, and it was meant to show how much space like you can utilize to store your stuff by using Makespace. It's a storage company, and I don't know, it was like obviously small and unique and different, but like when you're on a subway, you have that captive audience. You're gonna look at it. You're gonna want to know what that is, and like they got it. They knew who they were speaking to. They were smart with it. Less is more. You don't want to write a novel on your billboards or on your bus shelters. Like strong logo, bright colors.
Right. I always find Apple is one of the best users. They're a power user.
They get it. They're incredible. Apple's a power user, dream client. They're in one of the big shops, but I always admire the out-of-home that they've done.
Right. I think it's brilliant. A logo and a key picture. That's it.
And you always know it's them.
Nothing else. You always know it's them. Yeah. It's clear. It's to the point.
Definitely.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
What about 3D? Tell us a little bit about the whole 3D. There's two different ways to do 3D. And
so now it's becoming a little bit more common because there are these expansion of these enormous digital screens in key markets, New York, LA, that accept 3D. Creative. You need the right screen, high res, so on and so forth. Even in airports now, in the major airports, LAX, JFK, New LaGuardia, like you can run those 3D activations like we did for Tubi. There are companies that specialize in working with brands to develop 3D content specifically for out of home. So, I think the best one that I've really come across recently is Inertia Studios. They did Tubi. They're a smaller shop, but like I like them because they're very much like us. And they have worked on a ton of out-of-home campaigns in the 3D space, and you basically bring them your idea, and you have to have a little bit of lead time, obviously, and they will build out creative for your brand that is going to look like what Tubi did on these screens. Obviously, you kind of want to put the media plan out first, so you know what screens you're building them for, and then they'll put together basically whatever creative concept you want, whether it's rabbits or not rabbits. So. And
the truth is, you can also use out-of-home similar to the way we use video in different ways. So you can, for example, Blockbuster. I just did a big program in Times Square.
Yeah.
Paramount gave us their huge, beautiful screen. Mm-hmm. They kept it for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Just on our message. It was a message against hate, against anti-Semitism. American Eagle gave us their screen. So we sort of had Times Square covered with two of the biggest screens where literally you have to be blind not to see them. And it was amazing because during a particular period when we knew the people that we wanted to reach were in the square, that's all that was there.
Yeah,
it was almost like buying an old static billboard, but it was amazing.
It's incredible. You could do so many different creative things when it comes to digital out of home, whether it's road blocking, which is owning a digital board for 100% of the time. Yeah. Live streaming, like World Cup is done onto one of the biggest screens in Times Square. Literally full game. You have people standing there watching
also
a World Cup
amazing.
match. Yeah. Doing fun countdowns, and then you've seen like brands spend the money and work collaboratively with all the different media operators in Times Square to literally own 90% of the screens. Samsung did it incredible a few years ago, where they owned 90% of the screens in Times Square, and they had their giant whale swimming from one Times Square all the way around. And that's not easy to put together. It's not one vendor that owns all of those screens. You have to talk to like 10 different vendors. They have to sync up. It's $700,000+. It's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
I've seen a few people do that, and I agree. I think it's amazing, though, actually, when you realize like what they've done. But the truth is, you can also do that, like, for example, in the Oculus.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because there's miles of screens.
Oh, that's one of my favorite out-of-home sites in the
you
city.
can basically do, I liken it to the old Burma shave.
Yep.
Back in the 20s when people were driving down whatever route that is down to Florida, and every mile or every 5 miles, whatever it was, there was another Burma shave little sign, and it became a big deal. Like, everybody knew Burma shave because of that.
Totally.
And there you can basically do what I consider to be the Burma shave routine, which is as you walk or as you watch, it moves and the message moves with you and it moves along. I love that.
It's awesome. It's a great media asset, over 25 screens.
So what's next for out of home? What do you think? What's the next most interesting thing?
I mean, I do think that like there's going to be a much more refined measurement and impression methodology that's coming out. I think that it's been kind of a little bit of a weird landscape, because you have GeoPath that I had discussed, and then you have OAAA, which I've discussed, and they kind of don't work collaboratively, which is a little bizarre. So I think that like they are going to play nice and ultimately come up with like a measurement system and methodology that's a lot more on par with like TV and the other channels that are out there. At the same time, I think you're going to see a lot more digitization of out-of-home assets. You're seeing, you go to the subway now in New York, and it used to just be all static everywhere, and you have those sleek screens on subway platforms. But now if you get onto the subway, whereas there used to be static brand trains, you have Casper in every 570 cars, you have digital brand trains, which is kind of nuts. So it's 8 brands rotating, but it's these gorgeous screens that you can do really fun, immersive things with. You could decide to provide creative the day before you go live. You could change it out in the middle of your campaign.
Which is amazing. It's funny, my wife is just on one of those trains. She hadn't been on one. And she said it was absolutely an incredible experience.
Oh, it's great. We're running on them for the Farmer's Dog, and they were able to repurpose TV spots to utilize there because it's full motion out of home. So it was just an easy creative lift. So that excites me, because I love, like, you go to Los Angeles right now, the largest, I think, digital screen in all of LA, maybe second, just went live in downtown LA about 3 months ago. It's insane. It's called the Moxie. It's across from Crypto Arena. And it's basically the length of an entire block. So you have these enormous screens continuing to be rolled out, but then you also see the infrastructure of certain cities, becoming digitized, which, opens up out-of-home opportunities. So it's exciting to kind of see cities that were once boring out-of-home cities become a little bit more exciting and offer up a little bit more.
Exciting out-of-home cities.
Exciting out-of-home cities, yeah.
So we're honored that you're going to be on the executive jury of Outdoor and Print for New York Festival. So thank you very much.
Of course,
and we look forward. So tell everybody, what should they be thinking about? Like, you're gonna be looking to work.
Yeah.
How am I going to win an award?
I mean, I really love, I've mentioned so many different creative examples of brands that have kind of done it right, but like really thinking outside the box. I love contextual messaging. I love like playing off of what's going on now today in the world, in what city you're in, what your brand is looking to do, who they're looking to speak with. When you're relatable to your consumer, I think it's so easy to do that, but so many brands don't. And I just absolutely love that. I think utilizing different out-of-home formats. Like I said, the out-of-home landscape is so vast. It is not subways, street level, and billboards anymore. So using a myriad of tactics, using really smart contextual messaging, relevant messaging, and not being afraid to push boundaries and think creatively. I think that's what's going to kind of do.
And how about showing real outcomes? Acquisition, branding.
And of course, if you were able to prove that out-of-home led to whatever a brand's KPIs are, increase in sales, app downloads, drive to site, drive to store, like that is a huge plus. And it's it's just exciting, because I don't want people only looking at out-of-home as a vanity channel anymore.
Wow. So Brian, I want to thank you.
Thank you.
This has really been
fun.
An incredible time. And now that, again, despite our lunches, you are now an official FOD.
I love that.
Friend of David.
I love that.
Creativity from the other side. So we're proudly, and I want to see it on a billboard someplace. We don't have a onesie. Guys, like,
Yeah, I
We
need a
gotta get
onesie.
onesies. It's not fair.
Definitely
I
need a
gotta
onesie.
have one for Jack.
Yes,
This is very important.
we do.
So good luck with Jack.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
I hope he keeps waking you up.
Yeah, me too.
And for the next however long, and you should. I'm sure I know he's a lucky boy. He found a great family.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll see you in Nashville.
And I'll see you in Nashville.
Love
And
that.
David Sable coming to you again for creativity from the other side, where we talk with our FODs, my friends of David, about the greatest and most important creative sides of us as human beings. Like what gets us out of bed, what makes us creative, what makes us think, and what makes us change. And I think we heard today so many great stuff. So coming to you again from Silverstein Studios in Lower Manhattan, Renaissance of New York, the epicenter of creative New York City, for New York festivals and creativity from the other side, David Sable. Thanks.